Paul, how much longer will the Celtics title window stay open?
The title window, as long as you got our franchise guys still there, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and I'll even go as far as to say Derek White. Those are pretty much the core guys who will be there for the next at least 3 to 4 years. So I figure around 4 years the window is pretty open. I would like to hope so. But then again, I think the window never closes in Boston because when you have franchises like Boston, Lakers, Yankees, those type of cities, they compete for championships and they're always going for it. So the window will definitely 100% stay open as long as those guys are there. But when you have great ownership and great franchises, the window is always open.
Yeah, it's going
to... Who you being shady about, Rick?
He knows it. He knows it.
Who you giving that bombastic side eye for?
Paul sitting over there talking about Boston always. I'm like, man, it took them a minute to get the one that they just got.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know. But no, it's true, though.
They do have plenty in the rafters.
Yeah, no, they got the history, and I believe the window will always be open to what?
I don't know what that is.
What is that, an L? Steel toe boot. Steel toe boot.
It's in Timberland.
They got stomped down in the streets of New York. What is it on 30? Where's MSG? 30? What is it? 35th?
Yeah, 38th,
37th, 30s. Yeah.
You think I could get a ticket to a Knicks game?
That's what the Knicks took to the Celtics.
You can get a ticket. 1,000%.
I can get out of there.
You're going to get out of there. You're going to get some stuff thrown on you. And you're going to get a lot of swearing.
You're going to get a little bit more than
the ticket.
than Rick's side eye.
Yeah, don't put on the green hair or nothing like that. But look, I think the window's open for them. Like Paul was saying, though, when you got...
Oh, did you say open or over?
No, open.
Okay.
Open for them. You got Tatum, you got Brown, Derek White, you know, and whatever other pieces they feel like will be there in the next 4 to 5 years, because Tatum is under contract for the next 5 and Brown is under for the next 4.
Yeah.
So you know they got something. You just gotta what they've got to try to figure out between now and let's say 2027 season is what are they? Because you don't want to have a complete overhaul, and now all of a sudden you get Tatum back, and you're trying to figure out how to fit things in for him. So what I would do if I was Brad Stevens and I had some decisions to make on certain guys, I'm going to try to figure out how to keep things the way it is, even though I may have to move some players, but I want to keep everything kind of the same, because when Tatum come back, I don't want him to have to learn, you know, everything all over again and try to change the way we do business. So I think the window's open for him for the next 3 years or so.
I'd say that the window is open as long as Brad Stevens is the GM, because the questions that you asked, I don't know what the answers are, but I'm confident that Brad Stevens will find them. Because if I look at, first of all, just what they've done over the 4 years since he's been the GM, all right? They have been to the conference finals every single year, the last 4 years. They've been to the finals twice, and they've won a ring. That's an amazing run. And whether it's a combination of when he was coaching and now that he's the GM, there have been several iterations of this team. There was, you know, once upon a time, there was Kyrie Irving was part of this mix. Went and got a Drew Holiday. Moved Robert Williams, got Porzingis. I mean, he had to go and get Derek White. So when I look at all the moves that they've made and his understanding of what it takes, yeah, they have some challenges. But you guys are right. Like, I said it the other day, like, outside of Drew Holiday and Al Horford, who are certainly part of the mix, but I don't know if I'd necessarily put them at the core of this team, everybody else is 30 and under. Derek White is the oldest player among their rotation this year at 30 years old. So you know, we always do this, right? And I think it's in part because Boston went out earlier than we expected. And usually when teams go out earlier than expected, we look at it and go, oh, well, maybe they're not as good as we thought they were. Injuries. Yeah, and injuries or age or whatever it is, satisfaction.
Luck.
Luck. What's that?
Luck.
Yeah, that probably wasn't as much. I think this is probably a bigger factor than...
Steel-toe boot. We got the steel-toe boot headed to our head.
But here's the other part. winning back-to-back championships is hard.
Yeah.
Like, we take it for granted.
Winning a championship is hard.
Exactly. And then I think winning 2 is doubly hard.
Yeah.
Because now everybody knows you're coming.
And that's why it's only a handful that have done it.
Right.
That's it.
And so they've been on the doorstep and actually got it done once out of the last 4 years and have been on the doorstep for 4 years.
Yep.
That's nothing to sneeze at. And I think that Brad Stevens has been the architect of making that happen.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think it's open. I don't even think it's anything to consider. Their core is under contract. Obviously, Jason Tatum's injury makes things a little interesting for next year going into the playoffs and what they're going to look like and how they're going to have to retool. What are they going to do about Porzingis? Obviously, he missed a lot of games this season. What are they going to do about, the expiring contracts that they have, Al Horford and whatnot? But they're a team that is always competing for a championship. They're always retooling. They're a well-run organization. They're not dysfunctional. They have their coach. They have their core. I think the window is wide open. I think next year will be interesting because I know they want to still compete and they're not going to have their top guy. So do you just, what kind of moves do you make? Because you don't want to mess everything up for the year after. You don't want to completely change the style of play that you have. So I think they'll have to be strategic in that regard because you don't want to take away from what you will need when Tatum is back.
I'll throw this out there, too. When I look at the Eastern Conference, I'd feel different if they were in the West. I think the West just has a ton of teams that you're looking at and going, man, we can't half step, we can't miss a step, we got to keep getting better. Eastern Conference feels wide open to me. As now I don't know what to make of Cleveland because they're young and I assume they're going to be better, but maybe they got exposed.
Their feelings got hurt this year.
Okay,
And that happens.
But there's nobody that scares me in the Eastern Conference. The Boston Celtics did coming in. I thought they were the prohibitive favorite. So maybe they should still be.
Well, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander averaged nearly 30 points in the series whenever Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets, including 35 in Game 7. Rick, you voted for Joker for the MVP, but did Shai prove that he is the MVP in this series?
No, he proved that he's the leader of the Oklahoma City Thunder, the team that had the best record in the league. Some people define that as MVP, right? I don't.
How do you define MVP?
I believe it is a little more nuanced than that. What?
No, I was reading the prompter.
Word salad?
Go ahead, go, man.
I believe the success of your team is how indispensable are you to the success of your team. And under that definition, Nikola Jokic fits it more so than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
So you think under that definition, you can't see through the clouds when you're making this decision, right? That who you're gonna vote for.
So you're indispensable meaning
through
to
the
the
clouds.
success?
Yeah, you can't see the future through the clouds saying, hey, OKC has the #1 seed, and for them to even be at the table in the Western Conference Final or in the final, their #1 guy in SGA has to do SGA type things. You couldn't see that? Because if he wasn't on this team, they wouldn't be nowhere near the #1 seed.
It is a regular season award, so I'm not anticipating what he's going to do in the playoffs.
So you couldn't see that?
I don't need to see that. I'm not looking in that direction.
Don't you think you should be, though?
No. I'm looking.
Even though it's a regular season award.
Well, let's put it this way. Where would the Denver Nuggets, I mean, if we're going to compare, where would the Denver Nuggets be without Nikola Jokic?
They would be exactly
They wouldn't have even been in the playoffs.
They would be exactly where they're at, which is at home.
That's right, but they would have been home a lot sooner.
Okay.
Well, and that's my point. To me, that's the definition of MVP.
But they would have been home a lot sooner, too.
I count the value
If you take
part.
the top 3 or 4 MVP candidates.
And they weren't on the team. The team is going to be bad.
Most likely those teams will be borderline play-in teams.
Yeah.
I would say that the Oklahoma City Thunder still would have been a playoff team.
Playoff team?
Yes, playoff team. Would have been one of the top 6
I don't
teams.
know about that one.
As who as the best player? As Jalen Williams? As Jalen Williams?
I have a vote.
So this is what you believe? As Jalen Williams as their best player as a playoff team?
Say that again?
Jalen Williams.
Jalen Williams as OKC's best player for the whole Western Conference throughout the whole season as their best player. They're a playoff team?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think he proved he's the MVP?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is my thing on it. I feel like moving forward, I feel like the MVP, like it hasn't been announced yet. Right now, it's probably going to get announced pretty soon. I feel like you should throw in the first and second rounds as part of the MVP voting. Because if you're the true MVP, you should at least make it to second round or conference finals. That's just what I feel. And I think looking at this series, and the reason we asking these questions is because he did beat Joker. And so now I feel better as like, okay, he's the MVP now. Because if Joker had won this series and then he's on to the next round and then Shai's at home getting the MVP, it would have been a lot of conversation about that.
Do you think that he beat Jokic, or do you think Jokic's supporting cast simply came apart?
Can't do that, though.
Why not?
Because
Why not? I want to put the responsibility on that in the right place.
Because he's part of the team. We all clearly see that Jokic was averaging whatever he was averaging, had 240-plus games. You know, we saw that.
I've seen this guy get 35 in Game 7 and dominate.
Okay.
He showed up when I needed him to show up. I saw Joker take 9 shots in Game 7. This guy is the MVP right here.
Well, he took 9 shots because they waved the white flag.
I was juggling. Between SGA and Joker. In Game 2, I was like, Joker. No, Game 1, I was like, Joker's the MVP. 40 and 20. I was like, oh, damn, he's the. And then Game 2, I'm like, okay, Shai. But see, now after the series, I'm like.
That might be why they didn't give you a vote. Because like, you have to scratch it out, put it back, and scratch it back.
You got the vote, but I think you should always take into consideration, even if they tell you don't, what are these players going to look like in the postseason?
No, I will say this.
You got to be honest.
In my mind, I do that considering that the votes are public. And I do consider, like, what's the potential of this team? What's the potential of this player?
Absolutely.
But like, to what degree do I put that as part of my process?
It up there.
I mean, it's tricky because, and if the league gave the MVP out when the regular season ended, then we wouldn't be having
this debate at all.
So I don't know why they don't do that, but they should. As soon as the regular season is over, announce the regular season award. Because it's a regular season award. And if you let it in some ways, it can lead to a potential watering down of the award because, if SGA had won the MVP and Jokic had moved on, we're going to look at the award differently than we will now if SGA ends up winning the MVP. And listen, Jokic, it's to the point where this is just what Jokic is. His numbers are his numbers. He is going to get unbelievable numbers. His numbers are going to be better than the year before. Like that's the type of player that he is. And it does translate to winning. And he absolutely should be in the MVP conversation every single year. And I get that there's voter fatigue for voting for the best player every year and all these things. But I really think the issue is when they announce it. Because if it is a regular season award, I'm with you. The postseason should not have any bearing on the award because it's not a postseason plus what you're going to do in the playoffs award. It is a regular season league MVP for the regular season. So announce it when the season's over so we know who won the regular season award and then we can move on to the postseason.
It's kind of like the Heisman Trophy.
So who was your MVP at the end of the regular season?
It would have still been SGA.
And yours?
Yeah.
SGA?
Yeah.
And yours, Paul?
Man.
What you gonna tell me, Tatum?
Man, I think I had Joker. Them numbers was looking crazy.
The numbers were.
I know you had Joker.
Yeah, them numbers was looking too crazy. It was like 30, 14, and 10.
He had to though.
And then I mean, when he went into Oklahoma City and put
40,
in that
20,
game,
and 22. Or whatever it was.
and he had a 40. Like I mean,
it a 40,
it was some of
22,
these
and 20?
numbers were like these numbers was biblical. I mean, they were just. There was 2K numbers some nights. I was just like, geez.
If you want to say, did Shai prove that he deserved to be in the conversation with MVP or that a battle with Jokic? I'm fine with that, and I was fine with that the entire way. It's just the idea that because of this Game 7, when I got Aaron Gordon playing on one leg, when I got Michael Porter Jr. playing with one arm, and I already had a thin Denver team, which is why I gave Jokic extra credit for where they got, that now that's going to determine that SGA deserves the MVP over Jokic. That's just hard for me.
But see, I look at
them going head-to-head. which is unfortunate for the voters because that's why we're talking about this.
Right.
But
You
see, I
wouldn't
gotta
always
look at-
necessarily get that.
I got to look at all that, though. Everything you just said, though, right? Injuries, all of those sort of things. But I'm also looking at the number 1 seed, where the team is at today. Even though it's a regular season award, it's almost like the Heisman, like I was about to say. You know how the Heisman, the votes over and bowl games start, and usually the dude who wins the Heisman plays poorly in the bowl games? It's just like, this is sort of the same thing with the MVP trophy. If you give out the MVP trophy for the regular season, then all of a sudden, that team that player is on goes home in round 1, 2, and don't get to the final.
It doesn't look good, but
It
that's what I'm
doesn't
saying.
look good.
The second, like, okay, tick, the regular season's over, announce the MVP.
Yeah. I think to Joy's point.
Because it's a regular season award.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we don't have to have these
So get the rules
conversations.
changed, man. You
got the
You
muscle.
keep screaming
I'm
and
on it.
hollering, and you got the vote. So
You have the
change it.
juices, you have the emails.
I'm going to put a
Call all your
Yeah,
little
scan
buddies.
that
Adam Silver
and send that.
coming for you, bro.
Do all your, get your little.
That looked like more of a UGG than a steel toe.
All right, I'll work on it.
He drew a UGG.
Muck-luck.
That's a UGG.
Looking at former Thunder Kevin Durant, the
Whatever
Suns
it was,
have
the
already
Boston
been
Celtics got it.
have already been rumored moving KD, and now they might have a trade partner. According to reports, the 76ers are expected to be involved in trade conversations after landing the 3rd overall pick, and one player they might consider is Kevin Durant. Paul, would Philly be a good landing spot for Durant?
Not at all. I just don't want to see Kevin at this stage go to a mess of a franchise that's like doesn't understand what direction they're trying to go in. In my eyes, I'm not trying to get Kevin Durant because they will probably have to give it a pick and probably Paul George. And now it's like a lateral move to me. You got Embiid, Maxey. Clearly what they should do as an organization should trade Embiid and rebuild. And this is not a knock on Embiid. It's just that I think the process is over in Philadelphia.
What I want.
Try to trade Paul George and build and get younger. I don't want to see this team disappoint me. Like they've been the most disappointing franchise over the last 5 or 6 years, being that they have top-tier talent. I just think they should start over and stop trying to put Band-Aids on some of these wounds and cuts that Philadelphia has been having over the last few years.
But what you gonna get for Embiid though? Like if
I mean,
somebody
you can
really
get some
gonna,
draft picks.
really
you can get
wanna-
a team in the Western Conference that's looking to get a Golden State. What about Golden State?
But you got salaries and you got
Yeah,
salaries.
you got
that gotta
salaries and
match.
stuff. I mean, you got to understand who can use Embiid. But like Kevin Durant, he'll look good in Orlando to me. You know, pairing with a young couple superstars, be a veteran presence, give him some scoring punch. I like him over there more so than Philly.
Yeah, Philadelphia just seems like a harder deal to do because you're asking at least salary match wise, you would have to give up one of those two guys, right? Paul George, because you're not giving up Tyrese Maxey. So you would give up Paul George or Embiid. Both have a history of injuries and both got large salaries. So you now got to find a trade partner who says, I want to take on that salary plus those injuries. And then Philly's got to be willing to pass up that 3 spot for whatever players in the draft that could be part of their future and be able to say, okay, I'm taking an aging superstar that still has a pretty large salary on tack. Then we may have to commit some more long-term money to him because he's coming up on the end of his deal. So all of those sorts, that's why I don't really think at the end Philly will be the right match for them. I just don't.
Good God, no. I mean, any way you slice it, in Philadelphia, I have a team that is talented without leaders. So the expectations are always oversized. And I'm going to take another talented player and add him to that equation. I wouldn't want to do that to Philadelphia, and I wouldn't want to do it to Kevin Durant at this point. If I'm looking for a great place for Kevin Durant, I want him, to Paul's point, I want him to go to a franchise with an established culture where I can just say, Kevin, just come and be part of us and be your best self. Oklahoma City, Golden State, Miami, San Antonio. And I don't know what the trade-off would be. Houston, I think, is still in the incubator in terms of developing theirs, and that they don't have. I don't think it's quite there, and I don't think they have the. Kevin goes in there and immediately has a big imprint on it. I don't know that that team's ready to absorb that. In all the other franchises, there's already somebody established, whether it's the way that the coach and the GM operate or whether it's the star on the team, that I think he can come in and play. But Philadelphia is a quagmire. Like, that's where
a quagmire. What's that, Paul?
That's a swamp.
That's a swamp.
That's
Quagmire.
Quagmire. No, swamps. They're in the East and the Midwest,
I don't
down
need that in my
south.
vocabulary.
You want to try and spell that one?
That's where great players go to die. I mean, how many players have we seen go in there in their careers like just they got to get out? I don't want to do that to Kevin Durant.
Okay.
Yeah,
As much as you talk bad about him, I
Don't get that. Don't start. I barely want to talk basketball because I play football. I want to stay in my lane.
KD, I got your back. Don't worry. No matter what Keith said, I got your back.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak, and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.